This edition of Monocle on Saturday was first broadcast on the 27th of July, 2024. Hello, I'm Georgina Godwin, broadcasting to you live from Midori House in London. This is Monocle on Saturday, and what an exciting show we have for you today. We'll be joined from the rooftop of Maison Alliance, our broadcast home during the Olympics, by our editorial director, Tyler Brûlé. And our deputy head of radio, Tom Webb, is outside the defence arena where the swimming element of the Games is taking place. Later on in the show, we'll have a look through the rest of the week's news and culture with politics expert and lecturer Marta Lorimer. And finally, the CEO of the Affordable Art Fair, Will Ramsey, joins us to discuss the growth of the global art market and building communities for artists and galleries. That's all ahead here on Monocle on Saturday. First, the news. French President Emmanuel Macron declared the Olympic Games open last night after a soaking wet ceremony in which athletes were cheered by the crowd along the Seine. Dancers took to the roofs of Paris. Lady Gaga sang a French cabaret song and Celine Dion made a spectacular comeback. Despite an enormous security operation, the French high-speed train system was hit by arson attacks on Friday, causing delays and cancellations which are expected to last all weekend. Australia said today it signed a $1.4 billion four-year contract with state-owned submarine builder ASC to upgrade the Navy's Collins-class submarines. The contract will ensure job security for more than 1,100 highly skilled workers, with the work carried out in the towns of Henderson in Western Australia and Osborne in South Australia. Osborne is where ASC and Britain's BAE Systems will jointly build Australia's fleet of nuclear-powered submarines, the core component of the 2021 AUKUS Pact between Britain, the US and Australia. And the Philippines completed a resupply trip to its troops at a disputed South China Sea shoal unimpeded, its foreign ministry said, the first such mission under a new arrangement with China aimed at cooling tensions. However, Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi has warned the Philippines over US intermediate-range missile deployment, saying that such a move could fuel regional tensions and spark an arms race. And that's your Monocle Radio News. Hello and welcome to Monocle on Saturday. Now, most of Monocle has decamped to Paris for the Olympic Games, and for the next 2 weeks we'll be bringing you coverage from our studio there in Maison Alliance. And joining us from the rooftop of that building is our editorial director, Tyler Brûlé. Good morning to you, Tyler.
Good morning, bonjour, Georgina.
Bonjour. Tyler, tell me, what can you see? Just locate us.
Yes, so I am standing on the corner of a building which, in normal times would be known as Paris, which is part of the Accor Group. It is one of their newer flagship properties. But for the 2 weeks during the Olympics, it has been taken over by Allianz, the global insurance company, one of the main Olympic partners as well. So, yes, from ground floor all the way up to the 16th floor, this is a building which is hosting, of course, their staff, VIPs, partners, etc. And we're the sole media partner. I have to say I'm still stunned that we have this amazing location. And, of course, over the next 2 weeks, throughout the period of the Games, we will be bringing people through our little studio space, which is on the 16th floor. It's absolutely exceptional, the views that we've got across Paris, Georgina, and it's just going to be a great space. And, of course, a significant amount of output. Of course, not our entire schedule, but as you said, it does become our base for the next 2 weeks with a lot of our flagship programs coming from Paris, and I have to say also Monocle on Sunday tomorrow morning as well.
Absolutely. Now, also on the line, this is from the defence arena, is Tom Webb, who is our Deputy Head of Radio. Tom, give us a snapshot of where you are.
Good morning, Georgina. Yes, I'm in East Paris. I was supposed to be rowing this morning, which is all the way in the west. My brother was an Olympic rower, and I usually try and see the event in his honour. However, the rain is so terrible, and it's an outdoor event, I have actually abandoned my plans and going to the swimming, which is nice and safe indoors. everyone is in a very good mood despite the rain. There are thousands of beautiful volunteers all smiling and welcoming people. However, we are all sort of on the periphery, sheltering outside various Parisian cafes right now.
Well, Tyler, let's talk about the rain, because, of course, for us watching it on television, we were all dry, but you were actually there. Was the rain a huge element for you? Did it ruin it? Has Paris pulled it off?
Well, listen, I have to say our beautiful perch, Georgina, also comes with a proper overhang as well. So I was completely dry. And so where the hotel is situated, it's just near the Pont Austerlitz, near Austerlitz Station. And I would say I'm looking and just rewinding to last night, it's probably about 150 meters away. So what was incredible, there was this sort of fountain, sort of shower array that was sort of blocking the view down the river. So people who were along the river, you couldn't sort of see beyond the bridge. Then that stopped. And then, of course, you had the parade of boats, not before you had this kind of smoke pyrotechnic display as well. I think we all recall that sort of almost powder puff explosion of tricolor. But I think one of the amazing things, and we were talking about this yesterday, there was this very strange feeling in Paris. You know, even throughout the week, I was here exactly almost a week ago at the start of the week, last Sunday, last Saturday, last Sunday and Monday, and the city felt very quiet, and you could hear the complaints from restaurant owners. The forward bookings weren't looking very good, and the city was generally empty. It felt like it had completely been hollowed out, and in many ways it had. And even yesterday morning, of course, the day started Friday morning with the news of these attacks on the TGV network, and of course, you could only imagine if you were the security services, not to mention organizers who were hoping that, of course, a lot of people would be coming into the city from elsewhere in France. What was that going to mean for numbers? And then yesterday, Friday afternoon, around 2 or 3 o'clock, the city changed. It was dry. It was raining yesterday morning, and then the clouds lifted. There was even a bit of a spot of sunshine for a moment, and the city transformed. It was a complete festival, celebratory atmosphere. And then everyone started to make their way along the Seine. And so we had, for the first, 25 minutes of the ceremony, so just before 8 o'clock, it was dry. Then a light mist settled in. But from our position, Georgina, when you were sort of looking down the Seine, you could see that it was getting a little bit misty. You could see towards La Défense that obviously the rain was coming. But right until the very end, until what are we talking about? Until 11:30 in the evening, 11:45, the riverbanks were absolutely packed still, and that was the amazing thing. So with this horrendous weather, there was just this real sense of celebration, and like we've seen, I think certainly in London as well, with the London Games, just at that last moment, everyone rallies. But what a show to pull this off. I know there's a bit of grumpiness, and of course people have to fill their pages and their columns, often with the negative or the absurd. But to deliver what was, of course, transmitted to the entire world along 6 kilometers of river, not in a stadium which is 150, 200 meters by 400 meters, but this enormous expanse with the city as its backdrop was well and truly breathtaking.
What do you make of the symbolism of it all?
Well, the symbolism is remarkable on so many levels, because in a moment, it's also very different to program something when, of course, not everyone is looking at the same thing. When you have 350,000 people spread along 6 kilometers, you don't have that center of gravity that you have in a stadium. So, of course, there were screens erected, all over the Seine, and also other points around the city, so people could engage, because there were things happening up and down the river the whole time, of course, while you had this flotilla also drifting along. So that was, I think, one of the remarkable things. How do you actually create energy, and just the sheer amount of speakers that of course had to be sort of strung out all along the river as well, actually made for something that worked. And look at, so I would say from a symbolism point of view, let's not forget, the French do this up to 4 or 5 times a year, not on this scale, but you can see that, of course, fashion, the catwalk, the runway played a huge part of it. And when it comes to spectacle, Georgina, because of the fashion weeks that happen here, all of these major maisons trying to outdo themselves. The French are very, very good at, and they've been doing it, of course, for generations. Now, of course, things have maybe changed in the last few decades where fashion shows have become more amplified. But you have a bed of talent in this city, in this country, that do know how to pull off grand spectacles. I would say, in terms of symbolism as well, I was surprised there was actually much more emphasis on pop, modern dance as well. And I thought this was powerful because I think a lot of people don't realize the impact that the French music factory has on pop music. So I think if you were probably sitting watching this in Mexico City, or you're sitting in Vancouver, or you might have even been sitting in Prague, you're thinking, oh, actually, all of these greatest hits I'm hearing, so many of them have been delivered at the hands of French producers. They've been belted out by certainly by French artists. I think one of the most amazing, I wouldn't even call it soft power, I think sort of hard power piece of symbolism was, of course, the mechanical horse speeding down the Seine. This was, using, and for me, this was a sales tool, because if you look in any defense magazine these days, any naval magazine, and Georgina, your news headlines right now were about, of course, refurbishment to submarines in Australia. All the focus is on waterborne drones. So, of course, we know about drones in the sky, but the whole future of defense is going to be based on autonomous warfare with, of course, fast-moving vessels. That's exactly what that horse was doing. They might as well have put a for sale sign if you want to buy this technology, whether you're Indonesia or whether you're Qatar or Saudi Arabia. We've got something like this for you. And so I think this was maybe a not so unsubtle way to say that also the French have quite a bit of investment and probably a few products to sell you as well.
Well, let's bounce back to the defence arena. Tom, the spectacle, all very well and really, flabbergasting in lots of ways. What about the actual sport? Can you tell us about the games so far?
So far, as we mentioned, it is a wet start, so some of the events have been cancelled. The cycling has had to be moved on to another date. However, everything else is running beautifully. The football has already begun and the stadiums are filling. And the swimming this morning, it's only the heats, but it's packed and there's not a spare seat available.
Tom, can you just tell us a little bit more detail about how Monocle is going to be covering the next couple of weeks?
So there are two teams that Monocle will be deploying throughout Paris. One will be at the Soho Hotel, where Tyler is right now, where we'll be hosting full programs. And then we have a roaming team on the ground that have full press accreditation. They have access to what we call the houses of the games. These are where various countries and companies pop up and host the public as well as the press. So we'll be gathering at events in the evening at the games, but most of our programming, including the daily, will be coming live from the rooftop of the Soho Hotel.
Absolutely. And Tyler, of course, as you mentioned, you'll be on Monocle on Sunday tomorrow from that spot. But before you go, there is one question I have to ask you, is about if you had that feeling of national pride when you saw your compatriot Celine Dion closing the ceremony. Wasn't she amazing?
That was extraordinary, and I think it was, again, the work that Thomas Joly did, of course, the creative director for this opening ceremony. The pacing, I'm just above the staircase, just at the point of Ile Saint-Louis, where Lady Gaga did her performance. And this is one of the funny things. It was right in front of us, but, because we were watching it outdoors, and yes, you're referring to your phone from time to time, but of course you need to be there in the moment. I didn't even see her perform. I missed the pink, pom-poms. I missed everything. And even literally, it's almost embarrassing because it's right below us, but I was more focused on maybe, a lot of people are sort of trying to, of course, determine Georgina, having this flotilla come down. And it was really cute when suddenly, you had this like aircraft carrier, for some nations. And then you had like little Bhutan come down in a boat. And so there was also there was just something very charming about the whole thing. But of course there was this anticipation and certainly the French press. There was all of these stories about the spottings of Celine Dion, etc. And then, wow, right at the last moment. And talk about just epic. And this was, France completely in its groove. And there was Celine just belting it out. And of course, the Tour Eiffel, the Eiffel Tower, lit up in a way that we've never seen before. And of course, you were probably watching, a UK feed, maybe BBC. But so France 2, one of the state broadcasters and the official broadcaster for the Olympics within France, one of the female presenters actually moved to tears. She couldn't even pull it together at the sign off at the end, and that was remarkable. And just again, the energy and the electricity bucketing down. Everybody was still out, and just the city at that moment just completely erupted. So, last point on symbolism. I think if you rewind to, of course, when this was announced that Paris, would be playing host, and then sort of course, fast forward to where we've been over the past few weeks. Again, a divided France, a stalemate, of course, in Parliament in this country. Of course, a lame duck Macron, you could say, in terms of a unifying force, feeling good about your country, and you got to that sort of 3 hours and 45 minutes, fourth hour of this presentation opening ceremony, you had to be feeling pretty good about being French and being Parisian.
Yeah, absolutely. Tyler, thank you very much indeed. And we'll speak to you again tomorrow on Monocle on Sunday. Thanks also to Tom Webb, who is at the Defence Arena. I'm going to cross now to back to the studio, because with me I have Marta Lorimer, who's a former fellow in European politics at the London School of Economics. And Marta, I just want to refer back to what Tyler was talking about, which is, of course, the French political situation. And we're looking at this piece from Le Monde, where Macron refuses the left's prime ministerial candidate. Tell us more about the politics behind all of this.
Yes, so it's been a busy couple of months in France. They had an election earlier this month. In fact, when I said busy couple of months, it almost feels like it's been going on for ages, but the election was in fact basically 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago. So the problem is that election delivered a hung parliament, so it's basically divided in 3 blocks and no one wants to work with each other, but technically the biggest block is the left. And so the left have been trying to agree upon a name for prime minister, and they wanted to get this to Macron before the beginning of the Olympics. And they managed to come up with a name, and they suggested the name to Macron, and Macron already said, it's not about the name, it's about a governmental program, and there is not going to be a new government until the end of the Olympics. So France is very much going into this as a country that doesn't really have a government. It has a caretaker government, and where we don't really know if it is going to have a government anytime soon.
Mm-hmm. And of course, it does leave him in this lame duck position.
Well, yes, he's a little bit of a lame duck, of course, because he doesn't have a governmental majority that he can lean on if he wants to pass any kind of measures. So he is in a slightly awkward situation right now, where he is very central to the fact that France is hosting the Olympics. But also everyone is looking at a man who just basically lost 2 elections.
But he is still the custodian of some of the most brilliant artworks and architecture in the world, and of course the host of this fantastic event. I just want to bring in Will Ramsey, who's CEO of the Affordable Art Fair. Will, you were watching that ceremony last night. There was a lot of depictions of art sort of scattered throughout the Seine in the windows of some buildings. There was a whole little subplot about the Mona Lisa. Tell us what you thought of the artistic side.
Well, I didn't watch it all and I missed those bits. But I thought overall the artistic spectacle was wonderfully ambitious, great setting, and used fantastic creativity and French flavour.
Yeah, very much so. And I mean, I was slightly puzzled by Marie Antoinette with her head under her arm. It certainly looked dramatic. Will, you are, as I said, CEO of the Affordable Art Fair. Now, in 2023, after 2 years of growth, the global art market saw a decline against the backdrop of high interest rates and inflation and political instability. But gallerists remain optimistic this year. So I wonder if you could just unpick that for us. First of all, if you could just tell us a little of the history of your Affordable Art Fair. Why and when did you start it?
So it started 25 years ago in London and has gone global since then. And I started it because I felt intimidated by art and the art market. And I thought there are many others in the same boat who want to have it on their walls and have it as part of their lives, but feel a bit intimidated. So we wanted to take away the fear factor and make it accessible and inclusive.
And I know that you've done some research on the effect that the Affordable Art Fair has had over the last 25 years. What does that show?
Well, it shows that it's a vitally important part of many galleries and artists' businesses. I'm incredibly proud that globally we've had £500 million worth of art has been bought at the fairs, and that helps a lot of artists and a lot of galleries.
You're all over the world now, aren't you?
We are 4 continents. We've got to get to Antarctica, surely. But to answer your question about dip in the art market, I think there's two. That's referring to the auction market, and that tends to be kind of top end and investment art and well-established artists, and there's obviously a bit of speculation, and it can be a little bit like speculating in the stock market as well. But I think at the affordable art, well, I know that at the affordable art level, it is a very different thing. It's about falling in love with something that you want to share with your family and enjoy as you look at it at home. And I think it's very special buying a piece of art. It's you connecting with an artist with something that they've seen and you appreciate. And so, yeah, keep buying art, keep supporting, keep being a philanthropist.
Tell us more about the community building aspect of the affordable art market.
Yeah, that's really important for me. It's about artists, galleries. You know, the average salary of artists, there hasn't been a survey done recently, but it's pathetically low. It was the last one that was done, it was something like 8,000 quid. And so they need supporting, and it's so important that we are surrounded by culture and art, and if we don't support them, then you know, where does that creativity that inspires us come from? So yeah, it's important to keep supporting and being inspired.
And what are the details of your next London event?
Well, it is mid-October. It's our 25th anniversary event. Everyone's got to wear pink and silver to celebrate it. Pink being our bright pink being our colour, and hopefully we will support a lot more artists and have some fun. And it's in Battersea Park, mid-October.
Will, thank you very much indeed. That's Will Ramsey, who's CEO of the Affordable Art Fair. So still with me is Marta Lorimer. Marta, of course, that's also a grand show. I don't know if you've ever been to any of those art fairs, but it is a big, big spectacle. And of course, we're talking spectacle today, what with the opening of the Olympics. But there's also been a couple of really high-profile concerts here in London. Now, you would think I was going to talk about Taylor Swift. I am, but not just yet. First of all, Bruce Springsteen.
Yeah, I actually went to see him 2 days ago, and I was also at the Taylor Swift concert last month. So I have very strong thoughts on the comparison between the two.
Let's hear it.
I loved both concerts, and I think, but they are also very different experiences. With a Taylor Swift concert, what you're getting is almost a theatre act, because everything is extremely choreographed. And you know that the set list that she's going to do in London, apart from the 2 improv pieces that she does by herself, is going to be the same that you'll see somewhere else. Whereas with Springsteen, you know that there's a little bit more uncertainty in terms of the set list. There will be changes. Some songs are recurrent. They're always going to be there. But then there's also some change there. And then, of course, very different audiences. The Taylor Swift's audience is extremely colourful. When we were on the tube to get there, we could already recognize the Swifties because they were usually wearing bright colours and lots of glitter. Whereas the Springsteen fans, you can tell, are people who have done their fair share of concerts. They know not to show up in heels at a concert, and they're wearing comfortable T-shirts because some of them slept outside and arrived very, very early in the morning so that they could be quite close.
Now, we know that Taylor Swift has the ability to change entire economies of countries. And so the news that is being mooted, and we're not 100% sure, I haven't completely been able to establish the facts on this, but it seems like Taylor Swift and Beyonce are teaming up to do a fundraiser for Kamala Harris. I mean, can you imagine how much money would come in from that?
That would probably bring in a lot of money. I'm quite surprised. I would be quite surprised if Taylor Swift did something that political, because she's been historically quite averse to position taking in politics, because she comes from the country milieu, where she saw what happened to the Chicks, formerly known as the Dixie Chicks, when they took a political stance.
Yeah. However, Beyonce has allowed Kamala to use her track Freedom.
Yeah, of course. And Beyonce has been much more open in terms of being sort of political in what she does. Most of what she does, even musically speaking, has been political.
Charlie XCX has been weighing in. She says Kamala is brat. Can you decode that for me, please?
Yes, I've had to work this out as well, because of course I've listened to Brat. And Brat seems to be a certain type of woman or girl who's a little bit messy but living her own life. Also has some uncertainty about things, but is still, it's not your perfect girl. And so it sounds like, Kamala is supposed to be embodying part of that kind of womanhood.
And lime green?
And lime green, of course, the colour of the summer.
Right. What I've been really impressed with, and just to stay off the political side for the moment, but is that Kamala smiles. You couldn't have a more different person from Trump.
Yes, no, she does smile. She's, of course, a woman, and she's much younger than Trump. So I'm curious to see what is going to happen now about all those arguments that were going to be central to the campaign about Biden being too old. Are we going to hear the same being said about Trump now?
And of course, one of the big scandals of the campaign so far, and one that has drawn a lot of response from high-profile women, particularly here I'm thinking of Jennifer Aniston, is J.D. Vance and his childless cat ladies comment. Tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, so J.D. Vance seems to have a problem with childless women, who he seems to all put in the category of crazy cat ladies. And this is going back to Swift. There was somewhere I saw a meme or a cover like, what crazy cat lady, who's childless crazy cat lady, hasn't endorsed a candidate yet. And that, of course, Taylor Swift is in her 30s and doesn't have children and has a lot of cats. So it has been a very strange comment that I think is reflective, though, of how some people, particularly on the right, tend to think about women. We also heard similar comments in British politics a few years ago when Theresa May was running. When Andrea Leadsom said, well, she doesn't have children, so she can't really care properly for the future of the country.
Yeah, absolutely. Just before you go, won't you tell us what you're planning for this Olympic fortnight? Are you going to be glued to the television?
Not really, because unfortunately I have a job, and this is the time of the year where I have to do research and prepare lectures for next year. So I'm probably going to be working from my laptop, have my iPad on the side, and then watch mostly swimming, gymnastics, diving, I think, are my big sports, because they're not going to be showing volley in this country, I think.
Right. Why not?
Because the UK doesn't have a tradition of actually being successful at volleyball.
And is that something you play?
I don't play it, but Italy is quite good, and I do enjoy watching volleyball matches.
Excellent. Well, listen, have a fabulous Olympics. I think we can say that to each other, can't we?
Yes, of course.
Happy Olympics.
Thank you. Happy Olympics to you too.
And that's all for this edition of Monocle on Saturday. Thanks also to our producer and studio engineer, Mariella Bevan. Of course, to my guests, Tyler Brûlé, Tom Webb, Marta Lorimer and Will Ramsey. Now, Tyler will join us again tomorrow for Monocle on Sunday. And this programme, of course, returns at the same time next weekend from Paris. I'm Georgina Godwin. Thank you for listening.